All right, we got podcast number 7 back again with Knicks for the NBA playoffs round 2.
What's going on, universe?
I'm pretty excited about round 2. We're not quite through it yet. We have a couple more series that got to wrap up. We got Golden State Clippers, but that should be over tonight. We got Denver, San Antonio still going on, 3-2 right now, but
The Rockets to get their shit together a little bit.
yeah, and you still got the Rockets, who I'm actually very impressed with right now. Maybe making a bold prediction tonight.
Oh,
we'll see.
Oh, you're switching up from your original.
I'm probably going to be switching up a little bit, yeah, because
Ugh.
I wanted to reserve that for what the eye test says.
All right.
So we're going to jump right in with Milwaukee Bucks, Detroit Pistons recap. I don't have much to say about this series. I think this series was pretty garbage. Blake Griffin didn't play most of it.
Yeah.
When he did play, he was actually pretty impactful, I found, which was kind of cool to see. I've always liked Blake Griffin.
Yeah, I'll give Blake Griffin some credit. Like he was like basically on one leg for those 2 games, and he even if he would have been healthy, maybe they squeak out a game if they get hot from 3. But I mean that series is pretty. I think that was the second largest margin of victory through 4 games in a 4-game sweep ever. Behind, they showed the graphic the other night. I forgot who was first, but that. Not much to say about that series. The Bucks dominated, and it's really just hard to gather anything from the Bucks one way or the other from that series.
Yeah, I mean, I gather a little bit from it because, like, Toronto did blow a game to the Magic, which shouldn't have happened. And, I mean, I'm not saying that's necessarily going to hurt him going forward, but it showed me how, like, hungry Giannis is to win this series. Like, to win, at least to go to the NBA Finals and possibly win one. I don't know. I think he wants it more than almost any player in the league. Actually, more than any player in the league, based on his attitude and based on the way he plays the game. I mean, maybe Russell Westbrook wants it a little more. Like, he's a little bit more of like one of those, like, hustle every single play. But I don't know. Giannis.
But he can stay in control.
Right, exactly. Giannis actually has a lot of.
Westbrook. We'll get to Portland, Oklahoma City soon, but
definitely.
I have a few things to say. But let's stay on course with the East first before we get into all that. But
yeah, absolutely.
Do you think Giannis is MVP, or did you think that at the end of the regular season?
Part of me does. Yeah, we didn't get to touch on that last one. Part of me does because of their team being number 1 in the East. He led their team. Obviously, their team isn't. I mean, they have talent, but they're not like loaded with superstar talent or anything like that. Chris Middleton's a nice piece, and they have some nice players, but they're not superstar loaded or anything like that. Not that the Rockets are either. But my argument for Harden is I feel like they talked about Harden every single day, and Harden carried his team and he did stuff like we haven't really seen. I don't know if we've ever seen stuff like that. I mean,
That team, and for those of you, if it's your first time listening, I am a Rockets fan. First month or so of the season was rough. Like there was legit questions if we were going to be a lottery team, pretty much.
Yeah, there was.
Between the injuries we had, I think we also had a little bit of a hangover from that dick punching loss in Game 7 last year. God, I'm not going to talk about that. It's a new year, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we were 8-14 at one point through 22 games.
Yeah, Capella went down early.
And Chris Paul was out. We started to win a few games, then Capella goes down. So we're like, oh shit, we don't have no Chris Paul, no Capella. We rely on a lot of pick and roll with Capella a lot. And Harden had that month of stretch where he was just on another planet. So I would vote, even though I'm a Rockets fan, I actually think I would have voted Giannis. They won 60 games, best record in the league. I know they were in the Eastern Conference, but I also saw them a few games without Giannis. And not that we're totally different without Harden, too, but that team, I know it's one game, too, but I'm pretty sure Orlando beat them by 20 in one game. I remember watching when Giannis was out, and they just looked completely different. But with Milwaukee, I really want to see when they can get Malcolm Brogdon back. I think that's sneakily a big little subplot in terms of how far they're going to go through the East and then into the finals. Well, if they get to the conference finals, they'll probably be back for them. But I mean, that's the Celtics are on tap.
Celtics are a tough matchup. Celtics look a lot better than I previously thought. So yeah, I don't know. It just sucks that it's a regular season award. It should go into the playoffs.
Hockey does that. Hockey, they do, instead of doing, I'm actually all right with the regular season award. What I wish they would do with, instead of having finals MVP, which is exactly what hockey does, is just have a whole playoffs MVP in addition to a regular season MVP. It's because in the finals, finals MVP is like you could have the best example I use for this is the 2007 Spurs when they swept Cleveland. Tony Parker was Finals MVP, and yeah, he had a great 4 games. But if you watch that team throughout that whole postseason, Tim Duncan was by far and away their most important player. And I would just like to have if you have a postseason MVP that year, that pretty much sums up the postseason. Duncan meant more to that team than anybody else in the postseason. So if I had to change that, I'd keep the regular season MVP and do what hockey does and substitute a Finals MVP for just playoffs MVP. But,
yeah, I would like that too. I think that would make more sense. So hockey does a separate playoff and a separate regular season. You're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I wouldn't mind that. I would also not mind if they just combine regular and playoff because I think that's. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think the regular season is that big of a deal. You know what I mean? It is, but it's not. Like
we're talking NBA.
Yeah. Once the playoff starts, it's that's when it really starts.
It's not. I think it's still a bigger deal than it is with the NHL because I mean. I know this isn't an NHL podcast, but I'm going to grab one more thing from them. You had a team this year broke the league record in wins for the regular season, gets swept in round 1.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, I mean, the NBA, you at least get a hierarchy from the regular season where people stand, but in general, there's so many nights where either teams are resting guys or playing a second of back-to-back, you got scheduled losses. And plus, the difference between the regular season and postseason is once you're in a series, not only are you're playing at most once every other day, and you're playing the same team consecutive times, you can sit down and game plan for one specific team.
That's true.
Whereas in the regular season, you're just bouncing around from city to city, team to team. You don't really have time to focus on one team in particular, so the game plans get stronger. And as the series go on, you see the teams with no real. You saw with Oklahoma City, as it went on, their offense just got more and more stagnant as Portland was able to scout them and look at film of them more and more. And that's what's been happening with Oklahoma City since Durant left. That's another topic. We'll get to Oklahoma City, but to my point, the playoffs it's a different beast. And so to wrap it up with the MVP thing, 60 wins, I still think it was an impressive feat for that team. And I'd vote for Giannis, but honestly, I don't think there's a wrong choice between Giannis and Harden.
I
think it's got to be one of those two guys. But if Harden wins it, great. If Giannis wins, I mean that's obviously as a Rockets fan, I wouldn't mind seeing Harden win it again, but. Yeah. Giannis wins it like that. It won't trigger me like Westbrook winning it 2 years ago. That was retarded. But that's another debate.
See, I agree with that too because I just feel like it's up to preference at this point. I mean, I've heard different experts say different things on who they want to vote for, so I think it's just kind of up to preference at that point. So, all right, well, let's move on to Boston, Indiana. I thought this was a great series, even though it was a sweep. Indiana led 3, I believe, out of the 4 games at halftime, which is pretty. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty great stat. I feel like it was a hard-fought battle. They had one game where they were so close to winning. Bogdanovich just put the team on his back, was making everything, and then Al Horford just had that great block at the end, and Kyrie finished. And I mean, honestly, when I started this bracket and was looking originally, I thought the Celtics were going to possibly lose round 1. I really felt that they were going to lose round 1. I just, the talent says they're going to win.
So I did think that, but then. It just hit me after the second game. I'm like, you've been watching the NBA. I've been watching NBA playoffs for a long time. No team ever succeeds when they don't have a go-to scorer in the playoffs.
Exactly.
And that's where I felt so stupid picking the Celtics in 7. So I was just like, this. Indiana they were running ISO with Bojan Bogdanović.
I know. Yeah. Well, they didn't have anybody else to score the ball.
And I mean, he's a good offensive player.
No one else on that team could score the basketball.
Right. He's a good offensive player, but he's not a creator. He's a guy. Yeah. He's a catch and shoot guy that, honestly, I would love him on the Rockets. I think that dude
love
go crazy on the Rockets.
I think he's a dog. He tries so hard, and
he
makes so many clutch shots. But there was no.
But I mean, you can't. You're not running. He's not you're not running ISO like we run ISO with Harden. You're not running ISO through Bogdanović and going anywhere in the playoffs. But.
Yeah, it worked a couple plays, but they shut that down real quick.
I did pick the Celtics, so I did get that right.
But we both picked the Celtics. It was still a good series, even though it was a sweep. But you're right. Without Oladipo, that team's just way too undermanned. You need scores in the NBA, and that's something I've really seen in this playoffs big time. So now with the Jazz too, big time is another team that is lacking that second scorer.
Utah at least has the first guy with Mitchell, but they don't have anybody else. And we've been lucky that they missed some open looks in that series. I will say that, but still, with that being said, they're also not a terribly hard team to defend and game plan for, especially as, like I said, when you play them, you can focus on just them, watch film on them.
Definitely. Especially when you have another big to match up with Gobert like Capella, it's not that advantage goes out the window.
Right.
It's pretty even. at that point. And the Rockets, obviously, on offense are miles ahead. So that's why that series is there.
Unless we miss a ton of threes in a row, which we did at the end of Game 4.
Sort of seeming like it's
we missed it. It happened at the end of Game 4 the other night. It made me so mad. I wanted to end that series that night, but
yeah.
And it happened another time in the past that I'm not going to reference, but
yeah. So, I guess we can move on if you don't have any other comments on Boston and Pacers, then we can make our prediction for the next matchup.
I will say this: I may have made a little bit of money betting some second half unders in that series.
Yeah, you may have.
There was a trend. There was a trend there. Assuming
I can under on total points is what you're saying.
I bet second half unders. Because you saw the trend going at least like through the first. So I'm like, all right, when the Celtics really clamped down the fourth, like Indiana. Their fourth quarter scoring number, I don't have them in front of me, but it had to have just been
abysmal.
Off the
they
wall,
were
atrocious.
winning games, and yeah.
But yeah, other than that, like it was like I said, the games where Indiana was in every game. They really, if you have Oladipo in there, I'm not saying the Pacers win that series, but it's definitely
a lot closer.
It's definitely a lot closer.
They would have closed out some of those games.
Yeah, we can get on the Celtics Bucks. That's gonna be an interesting series. What do you think about that?
I don't know, man. I really had the Bucks just running away with it when I first made these predictions, but I don't know. Marcus Smart coming back is going to be interesting for their chemistry because that's the biggest down on the Celtics. Their chemistry was just horrible throughout the regular season. Always a new guy complaining, Kyrie unhappy, but they looked good in this playoffs and they looked like they knew their roles. Like Kyrie was clearly the number one. He was closing out games, and then Tatum was right there to help him close those games. They used them both down the stretch. I feel like Horford was great. Horford's a really underrated player. Horford, in my opinion, is the key to that team's success.
Oh yeah, especially on the defensive end.
When Horford is on, that team wins games.
Absolutely. Like you just saw the defense. I mean, like I said, it was Indiana, but you saw how the defense clamped down at the end of those games.
Yeah.
And the way he communicates and is able to tell command guys to make switches on the fly is pretty impressive. If I will say this one thing about Boston that'd be interesting to me is if Marcus Smart. Is he coming back in the series?
I think he might be. It might be towards the end. I mean, I remember the injury initially was 3 to 6 weeks. We're probably 2 weeks past that. So, I mean, I could see him coming back for this series.
Might have the same timetable as Brock. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know if I would. I don't know. Basketball's so chemistry related, and it's like if they're flowing, do you even want him back?
I was about to say
maybe he's the reason why. Maybe he's what messes up the chemistry for whatever reason. You know.
And I heard this theory. I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast. Him and Ryan Russillo were talking about the Celtics. What else he knew? If you listen to that podcast often, they talk about that.
I like Russillo, yeah.
But they were talking about that series a little bit, and Simmons brought up a good point about in the regular season, comparing what he saw from the Celtics in the regular season to the postseason. He was mentioning the fact that once with Smart out of the picture in that series, Rozier got most of the minutes as a backup guard.
I think Rozier's better, personally.
You think he's better?
I think Rozier's really good. He was so good last year's playoffs. He was incredible.
I think he has a higher ceiling, but there is some.
Smart's a better defender.
Smart's a better defender, and I also think there's some intangible leadership quality to Smart that the team rallies around. And he was saying though that Rozier was starting to get in a groove in that series a little bit, because he was getting more comfortable with the minutes. He knows he's playing a certain amount of minutes. Whereas the regular season, he's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to play 30 minutes tonight. I don't know if I'm going to play 10 minutes tonight. And he's saying and it makes sense. Like players in general are just more comfortable when they know how many minutes they're playing around.
I mean, they can dispense their energy appropriately and everything. I mean, if you're playing between 10 and 30 minutes, that's a big, that's a big range. So, how do you know when to go all out? How do you know when to conserve? Exactly. That's a big part of basketball is conserving your energy at that stage of the game.
So it would be interesting if Smart does come back in the series. It'd be interesting to see how they integrate him back in the rotation. How does that affect Rozier's minutes? But I feel like it also all depends. I feel like Rozier is nice to have to give Kyrie rest for a few minutes. Mm-hmm. But I also think next to Kyrie, I like Marcus Smart in there just because Kyrie isn't a great defender. He gives you some defense. Plus, Rozier, I feel like if he's not one of your primary ball handlers, or at least your secondary guy, he's kind of ineffective. And if you look at when they have him with the starters, you've got Kyrie. You've already got Kyrie, Tatum, and Hayward on the floor. There's a little redundancy that goes in there if you throw Rozier into that mix, where Smart, he knows his role. He's going to shut down guys on the perimeter. He might take a couple stupid threes occasionally, but, I mean, for the most part, he's going to be in there along with Horford, the anchors of the defense. And I mean, I'm very interested to see how, with or without Smart, kind of transition a little bit. I'm kind of excited to see how they guard Milwaukee's offense.
Yeah,
how they handle
definitely.
Giannis. I feel like Horford will probably be the primary guy on Giannis
Horford
in that
apparently
series.
is one of the best defenders against
Yes.
guys like that in the whole league, from what I'm hearing.
Yes.
So that's a great matchup for Boston.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This one's tough. I think I would take the Bucks, especially if I was betting on it or something. You know, just straight up on the series, because I think the Bucks have been more consistent. I think Giannis, like I said, it reminds me so much of LeBron back in the day. I think he's hungrier than anybody else in the entire NBA, honestly. And maybe not more than Dame though. Dame showed some stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he did
but if Boston,
a little bit.
Yeah, if Boston is firing in this series, I think they're gonna win it. I really think if they come alive like they did against the Pacers again, I think they're going to win it because, I mean, they have too many weapons. Like Hayward
had a nice series.
I mean, they have so many weapons.
Hayward looked pretty good against Indiana.
He looked great. He looked like healthy again. He had that awesome dunk. I mean, I don't know. If Boston's firing on all cylinders, I don't see them losing.
Tatum looked way more aggressive in this series too, which I felt and that was the biggest disappointment from Tatum in the regular season. The few times I watched Boston in the regular season, Tatum just did not look aggressive at all.
Yeah.
He just looked like he was content to stand in the corner, maybe touch the ball, shoot a corner three, maybe have one or two post-ups, but pretty much let, Kyrie, whoever else is on there, run the show. And it's like, man, you could be Paul Pierce 2.0 for that Celtics
Tatum's
team.
Gotta be flying
you need to be more aggressive and take some shots. You're big. You got a good shooting motion. He was pretty good on the post in the playoffs last year and getting to the basket. So Tatum definitely needs to be a factor, but I mean he was way more of a factor in that round one series against Indiana. So
definitely, yeah, and they seemed like they knew their roles. Like Kyrie at the end of the game, he was the closer clearly, but if he wasn't open or he was getting guarded too heavily or whatever, they give it to Tatum, and Tatum would come through the clutch. So I that's how I feel about it. What are you thinking?
I think from a prediction standpoint,
who are you taking?
I'd probably go Bucks in 7, but I think Jaylen Brown is also going to be an X factor in this series. Yeah. The way he's able to defend Middleton, because honestly, Giannis is going to get his. Mm-hmm. But at least until Malcolm Brogdon's out, and even when Brogdon's in, Middleton's still probably their second option. But the difference is when they don't have Brogdon in, Middleton kind of has to be like their secondary creator next to Giannis for the most part. So, I mean, they have nice pieces on the team. Good catch and shoot guy. Mirotic is starting to get a little more into it now that he's playing a little bit. Sterling Brown actually looked, I mean, it was the Pistons, but Sterling Brown looked okay filling in the not filling in from the Brogdon spot in terms of creating baskets for others and driving to the hoop, but just as a catch and shoot guy playing alongside Giannis and Middleton. George Hill is George Hill. I mean, he's a little old, but I mean, he'll give you something every now and then. Then there are other bench guys. Ilyasova he's just kind of a stretch four, but I think honestly, the way Jaylen Brown defends Chris Middleton is going to be quietly a key part to this series. If him along with Tatum because I think Tatum and Brown are just too small to guard Giannis. That's why I think Horford's got to be your primary guy.
Horford's got to guard Giannis, yeah.
But which also makes it interesting. Who do you have watching Brook Lopez in the corner? That's another.
That's true too. Brook Lopez has stepped up this year big time.
You need Horford around the middle of the floor, though. Honestly, if I was them, if I was the Celtics, I would probably try to hide. I'd probably put Tatum on Lopez while he's in the game, and then have Jaylen Brown handle Chris Middleton. Yeah. So I think Jaylen Brown's a little more sure of a perimeter defender. But and then obviously another big matchup is going to be Bledsoe. Is probably an all-defensive guy going against Kyrie.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. You think Bledsoe and Rozier are going to have some more beef this year?
Some Scary Terry's going to get to Bledsoe a little bit.
I fell in love with Scary Terry after that, man. He took that man's soul. I don't know. I loved it. But he's not the main point guard anymore, so it's not going to be the same.
Well, if I'm the Celtics, I'm definitely sticking Rozier on Bledsoe for sure on the other end. But when Milwaukee's on defense, I look to see Bledsoe on Kyrie early and often because they're going to need someone to handle Kyrie. With that being said, though, Kyrie will still get his points. That's why I think the X factor matchup in this is how Jaylen Brown handles Chris Middleton. But I like the Bucks in 7, especially because there is a good chance to get Brogdon back, and that really might be the difference in the series, to be honest. Because Malcolm Brogdon's a very underrated creator. I was very impressed with him, the little bit I saw in Milwaukee in the regular season. And I'm going to go Bucks in 7. I'm not ready to jump solely on the Celtics just yet because it was Indiana. I want to see. This is definitely one of those series though where I would say Bucks 7 before the series, but I also would probably, especially if I'm gambling on it, I would probably want to watch a game or two first before jumping really on one team. See how the matchups work, but this could be a good series.
I think it's gonna be a great series. I would also take the Bucks in 7, but I'm high on Boston right now. I think if they can keep their chemistry together, I think they will actually win this series. Indiana's no joke, and like those were tough closeout games that they showed some real grit. So
also great coaching matchup too.
Yeah.
Bud and Stevens are two of the 3 or 4 top guys in the league, in my opinion, and it'll be interesting to see that chess match as well. So.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that they think Boston's going to win this series because of Brad Stevens' ability to game plan for one player.
It's possible.
Apparently, he's really good at
it's very possible.
Superstar or whatever.
Now the counter to that is they were playing Milwaukee last year, who was basically coached by like an accountant. Yeah. And Milwaukee still gave a good series.
And the counter to that is LeBron destroyed them too. So the Celtics, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's one.
It did go 7, but he did destroy them in that 7th game. Yeah. So
it's not showing much of Brad Stevens' ability to coach one player.
But
he's still a great coach, and LeBron's LeBron. I mean,
right. And what they did with that team last year, like honestly,
they were very undermanned.
I mean, they had talent.
Didn't have Hayward or Kyrie.
They had talent, but did you honestly expect them, especially without Kyrie, to be in a Game 7, one game away from the freaking finals?
Right. No, nobody. That was a fun team to watch last year in the playoffs.
So it'll be a good series, really good series here.
Definitely. So we can move on to Sixers Nets. I feel like this series went exactly how we predicted it. I mean, I know we were texting about that earlier in the week, but the Sixers, man. So the Sixers, it's all about Embiid. I feel like, and his. The first game they lost, it was Embiid's laziness. Like clearly,
he was hurt.
He was hurt, but he plays like that even when he's not hurt. Sometimes he walks and he stands at the 3-point line. It's like he completely changed his game after that. Obviously, the coaches were like, "Dude, you gotta drive the ball." And you could tell he would like catch the ball at the 3, and he would like think about it, and then he'd be like, "No, I'm not supposed to do this," and then he would drive, and that made a big difference. Butler went off in the first game 1, I remember, but they still lost, and Butler's great, but he's not going to win them series. Like you got to go through Embiid, you got to go through Simmons, and then let Tobias Harris and Butler kind of just get their points where they get them. I think the game's got to move through them too if they want to win moving forward. Still a great series. I like the hostility with it. Jared Allen was obviously no match for Embiid. It was great. It's funny that Jared Dudley's the main guy getting into it. None of these other like stars or anything. Jared Allen, the guy who's getting punked, doesn't even. Man, I really liked him, and he was so quiet and so like uninspiring in that series. Like he just didn't seem like he had that energy to counter Embiid. And he didn't seem like he had even the grit. Like I feel like Embiid just kind of made fun of him, took his soul, and then it was like, oh, you can't do that. Like play nice. Yeah. Jared Dudley's like, you gotta respect my kids. I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't like his response to being kind of bullying.
Obviously I didn't have a dog in this race. I didn't bet on the series. I'm not a fan of either team.
Yeah.
But I was really mad at Brooklyn how they responded to the Embiid elbow in Game 2.
Yeah, they should have.
Someone should have been
that was so damn blatant, man. They slowed it down on TNT, and Shaq was trying to say it wasn't blatant. He cocks it back. You could tell it was so blatant.
Yeah, well, that's how Shaq was able to make a career. So
yeah.
He relied on physicality, but yeah, I was just very disappointed that no one. It didn't take till another, which I don't think the Game 4 foul was that bad.
It was.
But it was still enough contact to where, like, you defend your guy. And it took Jared Dudley coming back to, like make some action for Brooklyn, And
where's D'Angelo Russell and all these guys, man? Like, they were – look, D'Angelo Russell showed up. LeVert showed up. Who's the other one? Dinwiddie, I think was the other guy. Them three really showed up in this series. But, I mean, dude, when you're superstar in D'Angelo Russell, not that he's a superstar, but he's the superstar for that team. He is the main star for that team. He's not, when he's not showing like anger or energy, when your team's feuding, it's kind of, I don't know, man. It's kind of, he seemed complete. He seemed content. He didn't seem like he had any fire to what was going on. Like he didn't care that his player was getting,
And also, I praise Kenny Atkinson going into the series, but I don't know what took him so long to start LeVert in that series.
Yeah, LeVert.
Like LeVert, like it took him. I don't think he even started until Game 4, which I was.
Yeah, I'm coming off the bench.
The instant I saw him do that a second time Game 2, I'm like, all right, you're going to be starting, and we're bringing Dinwiddie off the bench. Which Dinwiddie's a great scorer off the bench too, which I thought that not they wouldn't have won the series. I'm not saying they would have won the series by any means, but
right.
And also it also didn't help. Joe Harris was a complete zero in that series. I mean, obviously you weren't expecting anything defensively, but
that's a 3-point shooting guy, right?
Yep, shot. He won the contest. They also led the league 48%, 47 or 48% on the season. Like they needed him to rain threes in order for them to have any chance. He missed a lot of open ones. He missed a lot of them. They got nothing from Caruks either, to the point where they inserted Jared Dudley in the starting lineup, and Rondé Hollis-Jefferson got more minutes, which. I mean, Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson's a good hustle guy, but to be honest, Caruks was pretty good in the regular season. They just got absolutely nothing from him in this series. But I mean, with that being said, even though the final scores in that series suggested some blowouts, I remember Game 2 was a great game at halftime, and then the Sixers just had that one huge quarter where they just exploded.
Yeah, I think Simmons went off.
Yeah, Simmons went off, and B went off to a certain extent too. I think they scored like 51 points in that quarter. That caused that game to go out of control. The only game that was really just never a game was the closeout game.
The last one, last night. It was terrible. I thought they were going to come out and show some fire, possibly win it, whatever. Yeah. But nothing, no energy. I was very disappointed the way they reacted to Embiid, essentially just kind of clowning on him.
What did you think about the Sixers in that series?
Like I said, I think they were all over the place in the beginning. I think Embiid just. He is hurt. Like I'm not criticizing him for that, but I do think sometimes he just settles for threes, and I think that's bad. Like if you're that, it's the same problem I have with DeMarcus Cousins. It's like Embiid's better than DeMarcus, but you're so good down low. You're so good in the post. No one can guard you, and you're settling for a shot that's not that efficient and it's not that great. So that's something I saw, and then I saw Embiid actually like realize this and turn it around in the series. I saw Simmons realize, if I have another terrible like series like this and we lose, I'm going to start being known as, maybe not that good or unclutch or whatever. And he really stepped it up with his aggression, his play. We'll see how that affects him later down the line when he can't take jump shots. I mean, I don't know, but I liked them throughout, and I feel like Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler kind of came in, where they came in, like they just fell into place. And I feel like if that hierarchy stays, they'll give Toronto a real run for their money. But if they get off of that, and they have Jimmy Butler being their leading scorer or Tobias Harris or whatever, and taking the most shots and everything like that, I think they're going to get blown out in the next series.
I have an out there opinion on the Sixers, and this would never happen. They're not going to do it because of how much money they're paying them and just the status part of this. But I think they should bring Jimmy Butler off the bench.
You were saying you like their lineup.
I like the line. I tell you, I really like. They played it. Because they played it in crunch time in Game 4 because he got ejected. So they didn't have him in the fourth quarter of Game 4. And they played the Simmons, Redick, Scott, Harrison, and Embiid lineup. Not a great defensive lineup, but offensively, they were getting open looks left and right. Mike Scott's a good three-point shooter along with Redick and Harris. You can spread the floor with those guys. That gives Embiid room to create along with Simmons. And, Simmons needs room to create. And first of all, it's incredible that it took Jared Dudley talking shit about him to get him going in that series. And then second of all, I actually think Jared Dudley was right in what he said. I mean, I know Jared Dudley, he might not be a great player, and should he be talking shit about another better player, that's a different debate. But I mean, as far as what he said, like I totally agree. When the Sixers were running in that series and going, trying to get some fast breaks going, getting transition buckets, Simmons was way more effective than in the half court.
Definitely.
But I also think that with that lineup I was talking about, the Simmons, Redick, Scott, Harris, and B lineup, I thought they had a lot more room for Simmons to create. Same with Embiid. And I just think their offense flow. But I just think with Butler on the floor, I know it's a great collection of talent, and they'll still get buckets just because a lot of those guys are really talented players. But there's a clogged toilet element of that offense.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of guys, like Butler, Simmons, and Embiid all need the ball.
Right.
Whenever you have more than two guys on the floor that need the ball to create and be incredibly effective, I think you just, like I said, they'll get buckets. If you're talented enough, you'll still get buckets. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that starting lineup.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you because, like, with Scott and Redick, you got two great 3-point shooters. You got, you're big and Embiid. You got Simmons, who's driving in the paint all the time. Who's the other guy? That's 4.
Harris,
Yeah, and then you got Tobias Harris, who's all around, can do it
good
all.
shooter.
I think that's smart because, too, like Jimmy Butler off the bench, with a bunch of bench players, he can have the ball in his hands and actually be the primary scorer. And, he did it in game 1. He led the team.
Yeah, and you could stagger some of the starters. You could still have Butler playing with Simmons and Embiid, or just Embiid, or him with Redick and Harris and around. Like, there's ways you can stagger. Now, granted, it would be better if the Sixers had more of a bench, which they really don't have much of a bench.
Yeah, they're not deep.
But even with that being said, I mean,
I feel like Tobias Harris and Jimmy. I mean, I could be wrong, but my eye test says that Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris are similar style players. I feel like they both kind of
a little bit to a certain extent. I think Tobias is a better catch and shoot guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Butler's not a great ISO creator, but he can still make some plays from time to time. Jimmy Butler's a better defender, I think. I mean, not that Harris is a bad defender, but Butler's
one of the better.
Yeah, Butler's he's consistently up there, and also, like I said, the lineup I was talking about, that is a difficult lineup on the other end of the floor because then you also have J.J. Redick and Mike Scott on the floor at the same time, who aren't great defenders necessarily, particularly Redick, who freaking Joe Harris really screwed up in that series because there were times where Redick just looked lost on defense and he got open looks and he just didn't hit shots.
He had a lot of open looks and he missed them all. I feel like every time I saw that guy shoot, I was kind of they were talking about in the game last night. He should really try to learn from J.J. Redick in the offseason how to actually play. I guess
how to create space for threes off the ball. How to run around pin downs and use those to your advantage to get space. But
and my boy Boban.
The Boban?
Dude, Boban's a beast, man. I like Boban out there.
I love when he gets rebounds just flat-footed.
Yeah, he doesn't jump at all. He never jumps, that guy. That guy never jumps.
And I mean, it worked, especially when Brooklyn, when he was in there, one of their only, actual kind of centers was out of the game, Jared Allen, so there wasn't a big team out there. He would just, they're not super athletic either.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. He would just poke balls up, as guys were going for him, flat-footed.
Way too easy. I mean, I like Boban because he's not the best player, obviously, but he's a matchup nightmare.
He's a serviceable backup.
So tall. He averaged almost 11 a game, so that's not bad. All right, so we'll take on the next series with the Magic Raptors. This was another series this series was kind of boring, like Milwaukee, Detroit. I feel like, I don't know how they lost game 1. That DJ Augustine buzzer beater, shout out.
It was he had your moment. He had his moment. But Toronto also they just didn't play. I mean, Kyle Lowry didn't score anything in game 1.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I did forget about that. Yeah. Kyle Lowry has to show up for them to beat the Sixers. I love Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi Leonard's going to, he's the silent assassin, but Kyle Lowry, man, what is up with that guy?
He's a little inconsistent, but he did get a little more consistent as that Orlando series went on. And then again, like I said, the point guards that regarded him were DJ Augustine and Michael Carter-Williams, which isn't. Let's just say that's not the best duo of defensive point guards in the NBA. You might face some tougher guys in the later rounds, but I thought he was all right, though. I mean, he did his thing, especially on that. I think, and I said this when I actually predicted a sweep here. I was almost right.
Yeah.
But I think Toronto's a juggernaut. I love that team. That team, they have the best of both worlds in the sense that you got your go-to guy that you trust to make plays for you late in the game, Kawhi Leonard, and even Pascal Siakam to a certain extent. He's starting to turn into that.
Pascal Siakam
was awesome. He's great.
He was incredible.
And then they also have the depth, and they have all these dudes, and they only have OG and Anunoby, they might not get him back till the next round if they get there. But even without him, that team is loaded.
That is a deep team. Yeah, you got Danny Green as your number 7 guy on here. Van Fleet's another good player. Jeremy Lin all the way at 10, like that. I mean, not that Jeremy Lin's great, but
Van Vliet is amazing. Van Vliet might be the best backup point guard in the NBA. In my opinion, and
he's good.
If you look at their starting lineup, there's no bad defensive player in their starting lineup. Lowry, Green, Leonard, Siakam, Gasol, all those guys are rock solid defensively. Marc Gasol may have dropped off a little bit, but I mean,
And you got Ibaka too.
yeah, you got Ibaka off the bench.
Yeah.
Norm Powell's a good wing guy, and then, like I said, if they somehow get Anunoby back, that's just another legit wing just throw in there. Talk about a team that could just switch any pick and roll. If you have 3 of the 4 on the floor between Green, Leonard, Siakam, and Anunoby, I'm switching everything, but I'm not trapping at all. I'm just saying you guys can switch on almost anybody. You're going to switch, and you're going to stick to your guys really hard after the switches and just play conservative but effective defense. And I know I'm gushing. I've gushed a lot about the Raptors, but I really like this team.
I like them too. So how long's Anunoby out? I don't really know much about him.
Anunoby had Anunoby. I don't know how you say it, but he had an emergency appendectomy like the last week of the regular season. So they said originally about 6 weeks on him, 6 to 8 weeks. Or they were also saying 2 rounds of the playoffs. So they might not. There's a chance that they probably won't have him in this series. Not that I think that's I mean, obviously you'd rather have him for the series, but I mean, I don't think that's a huge problem for Toronto. But he could come back for the conference final. If they get to the conference finals, there's a good chance he'll return in that series. So
yeah. So moving to Sixers Raptors, I think the bench is going to play a huge part in this. I think the depth of Toronto is gonna honestly outshine the lack of depth of the Sixers. I think that might be a big factor in this series. Another key to this series that I've been hearing about all week is the way Kawhi is kind of, and the Raptors in general, have kind of dominated Ben Simmons. He had like some insane amount of, I think he had 11 turnovers in one of their games during the season. So that's going to be a huge matchup too. I mean, Kawhi is a defensive nightmare.
Pick your poison. Kawhi, Siakam, you could put either one of them on him. You could alternate to give each other a break on them. And really, like I said, in the half court, guarding Simmons isn't that difficult.
No.
Like, just all you got to do, but obviously you don't want to stay in the paint. You only get 3-second calls. But, I mean, just kind of, you can really kind of hedge when you're guarding Simmons and watch who else might be driving to the hoop. Maybe help on Embiid on the post if that's possible. I mean, obviously, you want to somewhat keep an eye on Simmons so he's not cutting to the basket for easy layups all the time. But, I mean, not a guy you're worried about from, beyond the free throw line. So that's a guy you can kind of hedge, play the passing lanes, play some pressure defense on while not worrying about, oh, shit, now he's going to catch a pass and might sink an open shot. So that's definitely going to play in Toronto's favor. Honestly, I think this is a really bad matchup for the Sixers.
I do too. Now that I look at it on paper, I think it's a horrible matchup.
And you have not that Marc Gasol is going to shut Embiid down, but it's not Jared Allen.
Those guys are way bigger. Jared Allen is just too small.
And you have Ibaka coming off the bench to spell Gasol in case he gets a foul trouble.
Two really big, heavy guys. Embiid's not going to, he's not going to do what he did to Jared Allen. Absolutely not.
If I'm the Sixers, I'm trying to play it as fast of a pace as possible in this series. I think that's their one glimmer of hope is if they can force some turnovers on their own on defense and get out running. Get some transition baskets, get some open threes that way, they might have a chance. If this is a half-court slowdown series, I don't think Philadelphia has a chance.
No, Kawhi's way too good when the game's slowed down, too. Kawhi I agree. I think Toronto's probably going to run away with this one.
I'm going 5. I think this is a 5-game series.
I was about to say 5 or 6.
If it went 6, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be bold because I've been bold with Toronto this whole way. I think Toronto in 5.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I really do. I think the Sixers, now that I really look at the matchup, I mean, earlier in the day I was thinking about it and I was like, man, the Sixers are so loaded. But when you really look at the depth of Toronto and the lack of depth of the Sixers, along with Kawhi Leonard and Simmons, not showing up against the Raptors, I just – and Kyle Lowry, too. Like, Kyle Lowry's not bad on the Raptors. I don't know. I think 5 games,
I'd be switching.
Kyle Lowry's just Kyle Lowry scares me in the next round. But I think this round they have so much depth and so many good matchups. I think he'll be fine. I think when the pressure's on Kyle Lowry, I think that's when he doesn't show up.
Defensively, I'd stick Lowry on Redick and have him chase Redick around. Maybe get physical with him. Because Redick. The thing about Redick is you want to get, especially when he's off the ball doing his shit, when he's trying to run around pin downs, trying to get space. You want someone before he gets to the pin down screen setter. You want his defender to get physical with him, throw him off his route. So that throws off the timing of the whole offense. And if I was Toronto, I might give Green a little go at it too, or even Van Vliet if he's
Van
playing.
Vliet's a dog too. That guy's
Van Vliet's
a tough defender. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'd also have Lowry doing that. I would be switching Leonard and Siakam back and forth between Simmons and Butler, to be honest. And then maybe even mix a little Danny Green in there every now and then. He's a good defender too. And then, I think the Raptors they're too good. They're too deep. They also have the go-to scorers to get them buckets in crunch time.
They got the proven Finals MVP. Who do you think's going to guard Kawhi?
On Philly, probably you'll mostly see Butler. I think.
That's a good defender, but Kawhi's going to get his points. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he'll get his points. That's the
thing about the NBA. It's like you can be one of the best defenders ever, but a scorer's going to get there.
Some guys are just too talented. They're they're going to make contested shots, and you don't want to give up too many easy baskets. That's the key because the good scorers are going to get their points. But
definitely.
I loved and also Toronto. I like Nick Nurse. I know he's only been coach 1 year, but I like what he's done defensively with them. I mean, it helps with the talent that he has, but I think. There is something to the saying of knowing how to use your talent. Like, I think in the last podcast, we had a conversation about Golden State with Kerr.
Definitely.
And, he has a lot of talent, but, Mark Jackson wasn't utilizing that talent probably before Kerr got there. I'm not trying to compare Nick Nurse to Steve Kerr. I'm just saying I think Nick Nurse is a good coach and it's a well-coached team. They're disciplined on defense. They know what they're doing. It's a veteran team, too. Kawhi Leonard's Finals MVP. Him and Danny Green, they won championships with the Spurs. Marc Gasol's battle-tested in his years of Memphis. Ibaka with Oklahoma City. I love Toronto in this matchup.
I do too. I think we agree on that one. And then we both picked Toronto beating Milwaukee in the round after this, so we don't really have to. We can wait till.
I'm sticking by that for now, but we'll
reserve the right to maybe change our picks.
Yeah, they need to get by both their opponents first, particularly Milwaukee. But
definitely. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna jump to the West, and we're gonna jump.
Ooh, Wild West.
We're going to jump to the games that are finished first. We're going to go to the series that are still wrapping up right after. Actually, only one series is wrapped up now that I look at it. I didn't realize that. I'm already assuming Golden State is going to
we should be wrapped up.
Yeah,
I think had our heads up our ass in Game 4, but
I agree.
I guess you could flip it the other way, though. We didn't deserve to win Game 3, but sorry, go ahead.
That's true. We can go into obviously not even my opinion, just definitively the most exciting series that we've seen so far in the first round. Trailblazers Thunder.
That game last night was awesome.
Man,
that was the best game of the postseason.
I know. I'm so mad I fell asleep.
I had so much fun watching that game. That was awesome.
I was trying to stay up, man. It was so good because the Thunder were dominating the first quarter, and then the Trailblazers kind of bounced back, and I fell asleep somewhere at halftime, which was really upsetting. Waking up to seeing
we were talking about the idea of having a playoff MVP a little while ago.
Yeah.
Right now, Damian Lillard would be my playoffs MVP.
God damn. I mean, we were talking about. I know I was. I don't think you really agreed with.
Well, if you're combining the regular season and postseason, I'd still go harder, to be honest. But if we're talking the playoffs
right now,
so far,
Dame
Lillard has been the best player in the playoffs so far.
Absolutely.
He's been what he did in that series, and I was dead wrong. I picked Oklahoma City in 6 going into that. I thought losing Nurkic. I thought the combination of having to play Canner and Zach Collins is going to be a nightmare for them defensively. But I mean, I'll give Canner credit.
What is up with Canner, man? That guy, he was like a borderline out the NBA player. Yeah. I feel like, and all of a sudden he's starting on a team that dominated. I don't know. To me, that blew my mind.
I love after that game last night, he then tweeted, "Can't play Canner."
I mean, I bet that felt good for him. Yeah, beating his old team like that.
A few years ago, to Oklahoma City, you see Billy Donovan just mouthing, "Can't play Canner."
That's pretty funny.
How the tables have turned on that.
Yeah, big time. He really stepped up. I feel like I really like Zach Collins.
He did well.
A little biased because I remember him in college and be like, man, this dude's awesome. And then seeing him, I think in the playoffs maybe last year or 2 years ago.
Last year,
his third year or his second year?
His second year. Last year was not a good year to judge any of those Portland players in the playoffs because that was
they did get
the Pelicans just blitzed them in that series.
I mean that I was telling Tasty earlier today that just is a testament to how great of a defender Drew Holiday is. I mean he did a great job down last year.
Yeah,
and I was talking on the last podcast how I really I didn't really believe in this team because they did get swept last year. They hadn't proven anything, but Damian Lillard obviously took all those comments to heart.
He took another.
He was ready. He was cold, man. Like Westbrook was so fired up and so jacked up, and he wanted to win so bad. And this dude's just calm, cool, and collected, like talking shit, ready for Westbrook to come at him. Like he wanted Westbrook to come at him.
I noticed at the end of Game 3 too, because they were the cameras were showing like Westbrook and also to a lesser extent, but still Schroeder. They were just barking up a tree.
Yep.
Lillard just had the look in his eye, like I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, like he was like
congratulations, you won a game. Congratulations, which is your 4th playoff victory since Kevin Durant left. So congratulations on that, Russell Westbrook.
And I loved what he said about the George dunk because like a lot of people were like, nobody really had a huge problem with it, but the media clearly wanted to kind of, I guess, get a response from Dame. I feel like, or from them in general.
The media is good at that.
And he was just like. He was like, I don't care. They won one game. Good for them. Like, I'm taking this series. I don't like.
Awesome.
He knew he was going to win that series, and he dominated Russell Westbrook throughout the whole time. I feel like that was one of the big reasons Oklahoma City lost too, because, Westbrook settled for so many jump shots. Not that he hasn't been doing that a lot. He has been doing that a lot, but I feel like he wanted to beat Lillard at his own game, and it was impossible. There's no way you're beating Lillard.
And I texted you this the other day. It's one of those things where it's the greatest strength is his greatest weakness. Sometimes that dude just lets his intensity get to him too much.
Big time.
And he just goes just stupid ham and just wants to shoot every freaking time. Not just shoot, but shoot contested jump shots. And the few times he does get to the rim, he doesn't even beat his guy. And by the way, he's like 30 years old. His athleticism slowing down a little bit.
I heard that today, and I was like,
a little bit.
30 years old. Wow, that's I thought he was like 28, so yeah, he's definitely on his way down.
And me and Tacey have actually said this before. Like Westbrook, that's a guy who, if he doesn't add any like a jump shot or any kind of like
he'll be out the league
anything to his game to what he is now, like his game's going to age horribly.
Yeah, big time.
Russillo made the Allen Iverson comparison, and I was kind of jealous he did that. I was like, that's a very good comparison.
Pretty smart, yeah, because AI kind of burned out like that. Yeah, and it's not only the jump shot. He needs to either get a jump shot or he needs to learn to defer the ball in certain moments. Last night was such a testament to that. Paul George was balling all night long. Like Paul George really stepped up last night. I feel like he was actually driving a little bit, doing post moves. Like he was playing his game. He wasn't just settling. And instead of him closing the game, Russell Westbrook just tries to drive in and take this terrible shot. It's like, dude,
and they're waiting for you.
You lost Kevin Durant because of you. Like, it is because of you. And everyone knows that he left because of your game.
Absolutely.
And you got another superstar. You somehow managed to get another superstar, another potentially top 10 player in the league. And you still haven't learned your lesson. Like, that is unbelievable.
And even though it's Paul George and not Kevin Durant, it feels like the same my turn, your turn dynamic.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to what they do. He's like,
they don't play together.
He's like, I'm not going to drive a couple times so we can start to get the defense more aggressive and closing on the drive. Then I'll start kicking it out to my shooters. That guy just decides, all right, the next few possessions, I'm just going to the rim. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Or if somehow I can't get to the rim, I'll just shoot a fadeaway. And then he goes a few possessions where, oh, you know what? I'll just let some other guys have their turn.
Out.
My turn, your turn. There's no rhyme or reason to their game whatsoever. And sometimes he does make the right decisions on when to shoot, when to pass. That's just because he does one thing or the other for so many possessions in a row. But you've got to have a rhyme or reason, or else defenses, especially in today's NBA, defense has gotten a lot more sophisticated. Like the guys are just ready for that, and you just see how that's why their offense is so up and down. It's predicated on if Westbrook or George do happen to make the right decision, which is mostly more falls on Westbrook than George. If they do happen to make the right decision, or then B, if one of their guys gets hot.
They basically have to play perfect to win games. They have to play they're playing.
The one game they won, they shot 52% from three.
Yeah.
You can't, and they still barely won. You can't rely on that every game. You're not going to shoot that well every game. And now, granted, you could make the argument if there's one thing you could say about the rest of the roster, they don't have a lot of shooting on that roster, and I think if you did add some shooting, that would help. But with that being said, the Westbrook decision making it's still. I thought it was getting a little better at one point this year, but he just goes way up and down, and I think it really is. Sometimes the intensity, he just lets it get the best of him, and he just doesn't settle down and view the game for what it is. Whereas Lillard, on the other hand, that dude just carved him up. That dude. His decision-making and the way he commands an offense has gotten so much better from last year to this year. Lillard was awesome in that series. Every shot he threw up last night I thought was going. I was surprised when he missed a shot. He was on fire last night. And that's been that way pretty much the whole series, really. And
Did you see how high that ball got? That game winner? I feel like in a normal gym that would have hit the ceiling, dude. That thing was so damn high.
I was speechless when I saw. What did you think about Paul George afterwards saying like it's a bad shot?
Well, they came out with the actual numbers, and I don't know if you've seen the percentages yet, but he looks like a clown.
I saw that.
Yeah, like 39. I think he's 39% from that range, which is better than Paul George from anywhere at 3.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, dude. Yeah. Well, it's a great shot for him.
It's
I don't know who you're trying to like. I don't know. That just sounded so salty. Like, come on.
It did sound a little salty.
That's like anything. Yeah. That's like if when people say that in basketball, you're like, okay, who cares?
Right.
Like, I made it.
How many guys in the league could you defend that's an okay shot for if they took that shot at that point in time?
The only shot that's okay, you're saying like what players?
Or how many players in the league would take that shot and you're like, I could kind of see why he would do that.
Only Lillard and Steph. Yeah, that's it.
I wouldn't even say that for Harden.
No.
And like Harden, there's a lot of shots Harden takes that you can defend that you can't defend for a lot of other people.
Harden's one of my favorite pull-up three-point shooters, but not from that range.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have that kind of range.
It's really just Curry or Lillard.
It's Curry and Lillard, yeah.
Lillard's I mean, he's definitely not Curry yet, but if he can win another series or two, he's going to be in that conversation, I think.
And if somehow any Portland fans listen to this podcast, they're probably like, welcome to the fucking club. We've been saying this about Lillard all the year. Like, their fans will let you know about that on Twitter. But,
but when you get swept, you kind of lose some respect. And I mean, that was becoming his legacy, and luckily he outproved that. Now this is becoming his legacy.
I thought they were going to break that team up. Maybe not last off season.
Well, McCollum they were talking about trading McCollum almost all summer.
Who also had a good series.
Yeah,
he quietly had a good series.
25 a game, I think.
Some of the shots he hit with George guarding him were pretty tough shots, and he was hitting them. And,
and I'm looking at OKC. They really, besides like the obvious complaints and play style, like they really don't have a lot of talent beyond their starters. I mean, they got George, Westbrook, Schroeder, Adams.
Steven Adams there was an MIA out for him in that series.
Yeah, they needed to run. I feel like they should have just kept running pick and rolls with those two players. That's what those players are designed to do.
They've had success with that before. I mean, Steven Adams is a good pick and roll player.
Nerlens Noel too, man. We mentioned his name. Yeah. Not saying he was going to be great, but we did mention his name, and he did not show up at all. Marquise Morris didn't show up. Felton showed up one game, looking
hit some
heavy,
threes every now and then, but I mean, other than
looking like a non-NBA player.
Schroeder was pretty good. Schroeder had a good series.
Schroeder's good, but somebody made a good point. It kind of clicked for me. Like, okay, you have a Russell Westbrook problem, and then you bring in a lesser Russell Westbrook, like
a little bit.
Yeah, he's got similar personality.
I'll also say this.
I like Schroeder though a lot.
One interesting thing about last night's game is both teams. Oklahoma City was like Adams was just so ineffective last night. Then in the fourth quarter, Billy Donovan's like, "Look, Adams, like you've been great, but we're not playing you. We're going to go small." And they played a lot of lineups with Westbrook, Schroeder, and then any combination of Ferguson, George, Grant, or Noel. And I noticed, Portland, they didn't play Cannon much of that either. They're like, all right, we'll match them. We can match them playing small. And they had Seth Curry on the floor in that quarter a lot. And I thought the first half of the quarter, like, I was thinking, like, what the hell is Stotts doing? Like, at least get Rodney Hood or Mo Harkless or Minu back in the game, because Seth Curry is a nothing on defense. And I also feel like they kept him on the floor. And then what they did is, all right, we're going to try to hide him on Schroeder because Westbrook and George are probably going to take over the last 6 minutes of the game. And I was thinking to myself, if I was Oklahoma City, I'd give it to Schroeder a little bit.
Schroeder's a great
make
scorer.
Seth Curry work on defense.
Don't
just let them get away with hiding Seth Curry in the corner. Like, try to make him work a little bit, make them make a move there. And I thought that was bad coaching on. Not that Billy Donovan's a bad coach or he should go or anything like that. Which I don't know what kind of coach would be.
I don't think any coach can coach Westbrook.
I don't know. Like you could make the case just to let's try something different. But I mean, I don't think put it this way. Billy Donovan's not the problem with that team. The coaching's not necessarily. It's not a strength of that team, but it's out. I wouldn't say they need a new coach. Not like Milwaukee where they had clown shows the last couple of years. And they bring in Budenholzer and now they look like a real offense. But,
yeah, no, I fully agree.
But that was probably my favorite series to watch in the first round.
It was definitely my favorite. It was an awesome series. Even though it was 4-1, once again, I mean, it was one of my favorite ones next to Boston Pacers, but just because the two top guys were going at it. Like, that's what the NBA, that's what everybody loves about the NBA, and they for whatever reason, like, they're trying to put a stop to it, I find, with just ejecting players. I mean, you saw that big time in the Sixers Nets series. It's let these guys go at it. That's what we want to watch. That's what we want to see. We want to see shit talk. We want to see guys going at each other. Like, obviously, don't let them fight.
Shit talking. Like, all these double technicals, and then once the technicals build it, now the league does rescind some of them afterwards. It doesn't count towards your count to getting suspended, but, like...
Even the Durant-Beverly double tech ejection was kind of silly. Like,
they're just going at it. It's the fucking playoffs.
He stood over him for a second smiling. Kevin Durant looked like a demon. He looked like a demon doing that, but yeah. So... I guess we can move to whoever the Blazers are going to play, which is going to be the Nuggets, San Antonio. It's tied. I mean, not tied. It's 3-2 right now. Denver's up. This series, honestly, this is probably the series I have the least amount to say about because I haven't been able to watch the games. I know that I can stream on my computer pretty easily, but it's a pain. You know, I watch it on TV.
That series is actually, it's been like entertaining in a weird way. But I also find myself, when I watch those games at the end of it, almost every game in the series, except for maybe Game 4, and even that game was weird, after I watched the game, I'm like, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
It's just it's a weird series. I will say this, Denver made a good move. Coach Malone made a good move going into Game 4 of taking Will Barton out of the starting lineup and bringing him off the bench and letting Torrey Craig start because that dude's
I didn't really
good defender.
Realize...
Yeah, he did.
Oh, okay, Barton.
First 3 games they started Harris, Murray, Barton, Millsap, and Jokic. Yeah. And then once again, you gotta have the same little, to a lesser extent, obviously, not as talented of players, but with that starting lineup, you kind of have the same thing you have with Philly with their lineup. Too many creators because Will Barton's best when he's kind of either primary or secondary ball handler trying to create off the dribble. But you also have Jamal Murray and Jokic who need the ball too. They decided to switch out Will Barton for Torrey Craig. Torrey Craig's a 3-and-D guy, good three-point shooter, good defender. And then you bring Barton off the bench to play with, Monte Morris and Malik Beasley and all those guys are also good 3-and-D role players. And it's worked out well. I mean, Denver beat the shit out of San Antonio both of the 2 games since they made that switch. So I think they've kind of got their rotation on there a little bit, which is why I'm now leaning towards Denver winning that series. But yeah, other than that though, I'll be honest with you, like Derek White's been impressive.
Yeah,
Derek White's been pretty impressive.
Derek White has been good.
But I'll be honest, like it's been a weird series.
It is.
It's a weird series.
Weird matchup. Both like sort of boring-ish teams.
San Antonio's got a goofy fucking roster. Like
they do. I mean,
that
I
team
feel bad
is just.
For Pop.
I don't even think it's a bad team. It's goofy.
It is.
Like you've got the DeMar DeRozan and Aldridge who just clog up the mid range, and then Bryn Forbes is just point guard. You have some shooting off the bench with Mills and Bellinelli, I guess. Then they like to sometimes they like to play a small lineup where they play Aldridge at the 5 and then they bring in Rudy Gay to kind of play a stretch 4. That works sometimes. I think that works better when Bertans plays the stretch 5 and can shoot a little bit. But and I will say next year if Dejounte Murray, who's a point guard they drafted late in the first round a couple years ago, he tore his ACL before the season. They haven't had him all year. If they can get him back healthy and he can start getting some experience and playing time, I think he's got potential. And if you pair him with Derek White and the rest of that team, they could be a little better next year. But as far as the actual team that they have thrown out there this year, credit to Popovich. You could argue this may have been his best coaching job yet, and that's saying something because like Greg Popovich I think he's the best coach of all time. But I mean, it's a weird team. It almost kind of reminds you, not to switch sports, but it kind of reminded you a little bit of like the Patriots before they got Randy Moss in the mid 2000s. Where they basically had they had the infrastructure, but like there's not a real talented team around them, and they're just kind of weird and bland and
good enough to win to get the playoffs.
Now, granted, I don't think the Spurs have a transcendent player right now like the Patriots did with Brady in that era, but I mean, it's just a goofy team. I don't know.
Yeah, if they still had Kawhi, that'd probably be a perfect comparison. Yeah. But
I think if they play Portland, I mean. If they do somehow come back and win the series and play Portland, the only hope San Antonio would have is if Derek White can do something on Lillard. Other than that, I think Portland would.
I think the Nuggets have it. I think you made some good points how they made adjustments, and I think that's going to basically give Denver the edge. I don't see them losing 2 games, games in a row.
I think Denver is going to win that series, and I will admit, Portland and Denver. I actually think Denver could give them a good series. I know a lot of people are going to be super high on Portland, and rightfully so. And I'd
They are the hot.
I'd be scared to bet against Lillard at this point with the way he's been playing. But I mean, there are some things Denver could exploit in that series.
It's Jokic. I mean, Jokic is who's guarding Jokic on that team.
Exactly.
That's a matchup nightmare. Yep. Now, I mean, he's averaging almost a triple double in this series, which is really good. I thought his points would be a little higher in this series, but I mean, Jakob Pearl, or however you say his name, is pretty big.
Yeah, so Jakob Pearl. Yeah,
he's still a big guy. He's
Another weird thing about the series I didn't mention is I feel like the first few games they almost decided to primarily run their offense through Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
They ran a lot through Murray.
And he didn't show up in game 1 or game 2 the first half.
The one that they lost. Game 2 was the one where he saved their season. Yeah, because they were about to go down 0-2 going into San Antonio. And if they lose that game, I think they're done after that. But he saved their season, but then game 3 he didn't play well. And then I feel like around game 4 they finally was like, hey, we have Jokic. Let's run a little more offense around Jokic, which, as I was giving Michael Malone credit earlier, you could hold that against him a little bit because I don't really think Jokic really had nearly as much of an effect and influence.
No, what's his average during the year? Do you know?
I don't have that.
I feel like he should be averaging a little more than 19 a game. I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that, but
the only thing is he's a streaky shooter. He's not really a great 3-point shooter. He's a little streaky.
Yeah, but like Embiid, I feel like they should just be running a lot through. They should be going through him mostly.
Season averages in 31 minutes a game, he's scoring 20 points a game.
All right, so he's about at his average.
He's 20 and 10.
So I guess they're doing well. I mean, they did come in second through the regular season, so I guess they're playing a decent game.
He also doesn't take a ton of shots. I mean, he only takes 15 shots a game.
Yeah.
Shoots 50% clip, which actually isn't bad considering he does. He doesn't shoot a high volume 3, but he shoots enough to where not shooting a great percentage would have an effect on your field goal percentage. But Jokic, they decided to get him the ball a little more, run a little 1-5 offense with him and Murray, and have him get him the ball at the top of the key, and then have him work stuff. Which I don't know why they weren't doing more of that earlier in the series, but it just shows and plays in that series. It's just been a goofy series. Like I said, almost every game in that series, I at the end of it, I'm just like, I'm really not sure what I just watched. And to
be fair, I have not watched much of this series, but
it's a big NBA TV series.
Yeah, it is, which aggravates the hell out of me because it's just like, why not showing these games on primetime?
If they finally, not to go on this tangent, they finally let you stream that through the NBA app, which I've had League Pass all these years. But it's like, I get League Pass, but I can't watch fucking games on NBA TV because you can't stream it. And they finally added that to the app this year, which
that's nice.
Took them long enough, but congratulations, NBA. Got around to that. But
all right, so Nuggets Blazers. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. Yeah, it should be a good series. I think Dame just wants it more than anybody in this series. I think him and McCollum are gonna torch their their backcourt, front court. I always forget. I always get them confused.
Backcourt is the guards. Yeah.
It always confuses me because the back to me is I don't know. The
front
back.
Court, I've always thought that too. The back is where the centers play.
Yeah. I always think that.
No, think of it as that's the front line of defense right by the goal. You're right in front of the goal. You're in the front line. But
okay, so the front court.
That's the way to remember it, I guess. That's the way I use.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
yeah, fair enough. Their backcourt. I think they're going to torch Denver. I do think Jokic is going to get his. I think he's going to be nice in this series, but I'd probably take the Blazers in 5. Take him in 5. I'm gonna take him in 5. I don't know.
Okay.
Denver, San Antonio to me is not a good team. Like you're saying, Pop, this might be the best coaching job he's ever done. I don't think this team's even that great at all. I think if this team had another coach, they're not even in the playoffs or they're.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So I don't know.
Or most coaches anyway.
Yeah, and Denver's struggling with them, which doesn't give me much confidence. Where me and you both picked the Thunder over the Nuggets too. So. That being them being blown out like that, I think I like the Blazers a lot more. I think I like their backcourt miles ahead. Although Jokic does have a big advantage, I don't know. I don't think the Blazers defenders are that bad. I mean, they dominated Adams.
Yeah.
Adams is considered one of the better centers in the NBA. So I'm gonna take the Blazers in 5. I'm gonna be a prisoner of the moment.
I'm gonna go Blazers in 6, but I don't feel good about it. And I'll also say this. Don't let that thing go to Denver for Game 7 if you're Portland, because Denver's considerably better at home. And I am worried about the Jokic thing for Portland. That's my main hesitation I have with Portland is how are they going to handle Jokic. I think that's Tanner and Collins, they were okay against Oklahoma City, but it's also Oklahoma City. It was basically the disoriented Westbrook show along with a little bit of Paul George.
Yeah.
Whereas Denver, I think, is a much more fluid offense. Plus, that you've got Jokic, this playmaking, crazy good passing big. I think Tanner and Collins are going to have to work a lot more in this series than they did. And Tanner still wasn't great defensively in that series. Like I said, they just got away with it because they didn't even use Adams much. And
I think Collins is a good defender, though. I do. I mean, he doesn't weigh a lot. That's the big problem with big. Big's got to weigh.
I think Jokic can muscle him.
Like Jared, I mean, you're probably right. Because Jared Allen, what was he, top shot blocker in the league this year, right? And he just got manhandled.
Yeah.
You gotta put on some weight.
Tanner has the weight, but he's not a good defender.
I don't know why some of these guys don't gain 25 pounds in the offseason.
Yeah.
You got the trainers, you got the nutrition, you got the money. Do it.
You look at Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis was a toothpick coming into the NBA, and just a couple years into the league, he's freaking huge. But,
he's a great example of that. So.
But I'm like I said, I'm gonna go Portland just because I don't want to pick against Lillard again. I just think Lillard's been awesome. I'm scared to pick against him.
He looks so locked in.
And I think he's locked in, like you said. He's super motivated after last year and then all the shit talk Westbrook's done to him. But like I said, I don't feel great about it. I don't know if I would bet on it. Mostly because, not that I would be uncomfortable betting on Damian Lillard, but if you're looking to bet the series prices are probably not going to be good values for Portland because everyone's going to be jumping.
Yeah, everybody loves them.
I know
I'm being a prisoner in the moment too, picking them at 5, but it's I do agree with you though. The Nuggets could be a sneaky win.
And also, like I said, Denver is they are good they are considerably better at home, and they will have home court in the series. But like I said, gun to my head, I'm taking Portland. And if I was betting, I'd probably bet on a game-by-game basis, but I would lean towards – I'd pick my spots with Portland in the series, betting individual games. But, yeah, I would go Portland in 6.
All right. Well, let's jump to Golden State Clippers. There's not a ton to talk about with this series. The Beverly KD
I told you the Clippers would win a game.
Yeah, you did. I
didn't think it would go down that way, though.
Yeah, another game I fell asleep on. But Beverly really got in KD's head in the beginning. And that, to me, is going to be the key for the next round, which we're going to get into, is whether Kevin Durant, when he's mad and he's hungry, why is he not taking the amount of shots? He's so damn good. You can't defend him. He's the key to that team being dominant. He's not the key to Steph Curry is the key to that team, but Kevin Durant's the key to that team dominating.
Harden's awesome. I love what he does for our team. With that being said, I still think Durant is the best pure scorer in the NBA. At least in terms of guys that can get a basket the easiest.
Well, it's because Durant has that easy post up. You can't defend that. It's so easy. You just back guys down, little jump back, boom.
I know this has been said a million times by a million different people, but he's got a 7'7" wingspan. He's long as hell. He is kind of agile for his size, and he can shoot like Dirk Nowitzki.
I agree. I don't know. James Harden's got more moves and stuff, and he's more finesse. But yeah, I agree. If you're trying to get 2 points, Kevin Durant's your go-to guy. I liked his grit though. I liked how he responded to Patrick Beverly. I don't know why that was a double technical once again. I think it just takes the fun out of the game. Patrick Beverly is annoying as hell though. I'll tell you that.
I know it.
I'm watching him play and I'm like, man, if this guy was playing me in our amateur leagues or whatever, I'd definitely push him. Dude, quit grabbing me. He's grabbing, pulling jersey every single play. That guy, and it's fine. It's gritty. I think it's cheap, but it's also you got to do it because, it's Kevin Durant. You're not stopping and playing conventional defense. Right. I don't like it, but I also like it. It's
one of those classic things because I've been on the other side of that. He played for the Rockets for a few years.
Yeah, he did.
If he's on your team, you love him.
Right. You want that guy on your team.
Hard.
You want that guy on your team because that guy is taking that guy's taking and he's taking all the heat from that whole team. That whole team's focused on him, I feel like, and all these other players can just because we had a guy like that on our basketball team, and I used to love basically all these guys are hollering at him, and everybody else on our team can just focus and actually play the game. Yeah. We don't got to worry about the shit talk.
And Beverly, he's fucking psycho.
He is.
He goes into games. For that. He thinks going into every single game in that series. He's like, I am shutting down Kevin Durant, and we are winning this fucking game tonight. I mean, as hilarious as that sounds, like he thinks that every fucking night.
And it might work
And,
one every 3 games, one every 4 games.
Shit.
You know, I mean, it did work that one night. I feel like, but
Yeah.
because Kevin Durant, like I'm saying, like he took what did he take 8 shots that game they lost? I mean, why are you not? I don't know. That's Kevin Durant's problem. Like as long as he actually takes the shots and plays hard, like mean, they're gonna win. You know, obviously the whole thing.
You're talking about game. That was game 1, right?
I think they lost game 2.
It was 16 shots in the game. That's right, game 2. Only took 16 in game 1, which wasn't a whole lot. Although he did get the technical in that. But Durant, yeah, you're right. 8 shots. Wow,
that's so low.
I totally forgot about that.
So I think that was a complete like psychological whatever that Beverly pulled on him.
Absolutely.
I think he got in his head, and Durant I think the whole time was kind of like, all right, I'm just not gonna take a lot of shots because I don't want this guy talking shit to me. Like it's one of those things where you have in the back of your mind, you're not really thinking it, but you're playing soft. You're playing maybe not soft, but you're playing non-aggressive.
Yeah.
So. That's about it from that series. I mean, Golden State's going to take it tonight.
The Clippers, very admirable. Doc Rivers, fantastic coaching job this year.
Yeah, him and Pop.
Especially after they traded Tobias Harris. Like, they not only that, but they went on a little winning streak down the stretch. And, winning 48 games, which is an absurd win total for the amount of talent that they had. And Game 4 was kind of close, too, for a little while. They competed. I mean, tonight, I think Golden State's going to blow the doors off on the night to end the series. And I'm hoping we follow suit, so we don't have to go back to fucking Utah. But.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to touch on this real quick. Just I want to ask you, what do you think of Stephen A. saying that there's more than a 50% chance of the Clippers getting Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard for 2019?
He said that?
Yeah.
But I think Kawhi is a lot more of a possibility than Durant. I'm not saying Durant's out of. I mean, the Clippers. I'd have to pull up.
I think Golden State wins. Machine. Durant's gone. That's what I think.
You think Golden State wins?
Yeah, for sure. Because I really do buy into that argument that we were talking about last week. How Durant wants to be known better than LeBron, and the only way he can.
I think he's going to the Knicks.
I do too. The only way he can do that is if he wins one from the Knicks, like we were saying.
Yeah. If he wins with the Knicks, he is a god. I mean, he's already great. But if he brings a freaking championship to the fucking New York Knicks, that fucking franchise haven't won a title in 46 years. But they have an amazing fan base. They're just starving for basketball or good basketball. If he wins a title in New York, even just one, he is a god.
I agree.
He's immortalized.
I think that's why he's going to go to the Knicks. That's what we were talking about.
I think so too. Yeah. And it also plays into the whole he cares about what people think about, which as a basketball fan, that drives me up a wall because I really wish he just would. Well, I'm glad he does so he can leave the Warriors, as I do want him off of the goddamn Warriors. With that being said, it also does make you just wonder, why do you care what people think about you? But
right. Definitely.
If it gets him off the Warriors after this year, I won't complain.
I just thought that was an interesting thing that he said. I thought that was kind of crazy. More than 50% to get both of them.
Yeah, Stephen A. He says some stuff. He says stuff.
Yeah.
That show. Everything I hear from that. I heard one of the most. I'm not going to say what it was. I heard one of the most asinine quotes I've ever heard on that show a couple days ago. They just say shit just to. It's a first take. It's their shtick.
Well, see, I mean...
Or was this the Stephen A. show? Because he has his own show, which is also hilarious.
He just berates people who call in. He literally just berates them. He's just you're an idiot. Don't call back.
One day I was working. I was working from home here, and I had it on the TV. And I just wanted to watch... Because with their radio shows, ESPN will also show, a video feed of it. And I just wanted to see the feed, just to see, what he actually looks like. It's hilarious to just watch him randomly, out of nowhere, just start yelling about something.
Yeah.
And he's the only one in the room, and out of nowhere, it's not even something that you could... Sometimes when people, explode, you can see, the build-up coming. They're building up, then they explode. He'll just be talking about something randomly, not even sounding like he knows what he's talking about, but not super passionate about it. And then he all of a sudden just starts yelling out of nowhere. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? This is hilarious, but...
No, yeah, just a quick example of that. They make fun of him a lot on the Dan Le Batard show, which I'll listen to for a short amount of time.
That's an interesting show.
And they will pull in. They'll basically go to the live play-ins of when Stephen A.'s ranting, And there was one where Stephen A's randomly like, Clayton Kershaw, happy birthday to you. And then he's like, who cares? You need to win a world championship.
Dude, they play that cutaway a lot on that show.
Yeah,
It's
they
hilarious.
do. They love that one. Yeah.
I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. My theory on First Take is that they have arguments for both sides, and then they kind of just like argue whatever way the first person.
Yeah, and the other thing,
some of their arguments are so bad. You're
it's
like,
dumb, and like you can tell this is manufactured. You don't even know if either guy like believes in what he's saying. He's just putting on a show and arguing it. Which I mean, I get it's fun to watch people argue, but like I don't know. When I watch someone argue, I want it in doses, and I want it to feel real. I want it to feel like, all right, these two guys legit don't agree on something, and they're legit arguing. Whereas when I see debates, sometimes I just know they're just debating.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes you can tell. I like when they bring in Will Kane, honestly, because he really throws a wrench in.
I'm mad at him just because he took the Russillo slot, and I'm a big Russillo fan.
Yeah, I really like Russillo.
Russillo's awesome.
I do like Will Kane too.
Yeah,
but anyway, off the other media.
Yeah.
Rockets, Jazz. Man, this series has been surprising, but we were talking about it a little bit earlier. It's like, Donovan Mitchell doesn't have a second scorer, so it's kind of hard for the Jazz to really do anything. Gobert's kind of taken out with Capella. That's a great matchup. And then I don't know, they're a good team, but the Rockets have impressed me so much in the first 3 games. They were so good.
First 2.
Yeah, the first 2, that's true.
Game 3, I still don't know how we won.
But the first 2 games, they were incredible. Like, they blew them out the water, and I did not see that coming. I thought this was going to be the series to watch in round 1.
I was nervous. I mean, I picked the Rockets in 6, I think. I wasn't gleaming with confidence by any means.
I picked them in 7. I don't know. I thought the Jazz were going to show up. The Jazz have looked good before. They just, I don't know. It really is so indicative on how much it matters to have scores in the NBA in the playoffs. If you don't have that, it's so hard to win series.
I'm also say this might sound a little nitpicky, but we are also fortunate that they missed some of the open threes that they've missed, which also worries me about the next round. Soon when we get there, which we should. But obviously we'll probably change up our game plan a little bit to where we're not going to suck in on any time Mitchell or Rubio drives. And I mean, we should suck in when Rubio drives because like that dude can't hit the side of a barn, and we shouldn't be guarding him by the 3-point line. But some of their drives at times, we pack the paint almost too much, and they've gotten a lot of open threes. We'll definitely need to adjust. Which like I said, I think we will because Jeff Bezelic, who is kind of our defensive coordinator, assistant coach, he's one of the best defensive coaches in basketball. I have faith that we'll make that adjustment because you can't give the open threes Utah's gotten in this series. If we give that to Golden State, we're fucked. Like we might not even win a game. But I'm
looking at the point per game. Ingles has 5 points a game.
He's been awful. He's been terrible.
He was someone I really liked in this series because I feel like I feel like he showed up in playoffs last year. I think it was. And
he had a good series against OKC last year. Yeah. I've enjoyed making fun of him this series because he's been atrocious. And he's trying to talk shit to Chris Paul, which just makes it even funnier. Yeah. But the first 2 games we were fucking awesome, and I was getting excited. And maybe I'm a little let down because the 2 games in Utah, I don't think we played. Game 4, we played well up until the 4th quarter. We started missing threes. But not only that, I think our defense in that quarter was incredibly weak. Our defense that whole game was kind of weak. Then in the 4th quarter, they were just getting whatever they wanted to the rim. And granted, Capella actually, not to make excuses, Capella did actually have like a stomach virus for that game. I was wondering why he didn't play much in the 4th quarter. He was just kind of out of breath. So we weren't 100% not to make that excuse. But I'll also say Utah, they did play really good defense in the 2 games in Utah. They made adjustments. They had Gobert and Favors hang around the rim a little more. We also didn't get running in transition as much as we did at home, which allowed Gobert and Favors to stay closer to the rim. And Harden, or not just Harden, but pretty much anyone we had trouble getting layups off at the rim because they were blocking a lot of shots. But
Gobert's such a good defender.
Hopefully we get back at home. We can kind of get running a little more, play a little quicker pace. Because that's what we were doing in the first 2 games when we were smoking them. Like we were beating the shit out of them.
Yeah, running up and down. I mean, that's the thing about Houston. It's like they're so good, but sometimes they just go on these cold spells of threes, and it's
it kind of comes with the Morey ball territory of shooting a lot of threes. Like you're gonna have your dry spells, but then you're gonna have some games where you're hitting them. And if you're hitting them in like a 55% clip, which I think we were in game 2, and you look unbeatable. Like you could be like I would like if we're hitting our threes at that level, I'm not even worried about Golden State, but you're obviously not going to shoot that way every game, so it'll be a little challenging next round. But
definitely.
But
So yeah, let's move into that though. The round one,
God.
probably the most anticipated matchup of the entire playoffs, including the finals.
I still have PTSD from last year.
Yeah, I bet you were. What game
Yeah.
did you go to?
I went to game 7.
7.
Shelled out $700 for a ticket.
Damn.
I still don't regret it. It was a great atmosphere, but
Yeah, that would be cool to go.
just watching them miss 20. Like I don't even know how that's possible to miss that many threes in a row, but it happened, and
So,
we also the minute Chris Paul at the end of Game 5, the minute he was reaching for the hamstring, I was like, this is bad because hamstring are it's not a serious injury, but it takes time to heal. And it's like, I mean, we're going to be playing Game 6 and 7 within the next 4 or 5 days, and he's not going to be ready to go. And I just had a bad feeling from them. And with that being said, we still had double-digit leads at halftime. I probably already said this in the last podcast. People are probably tired of hearing it already, but Jesus, that series still gets me, and I want revenge really bad. But I'm also, I guess we should be playing with house money, considering we get another shot at him. What do we have to lose except another series to lose to him? I'm sorry. I'm just rambling.
No, you're good. You're good. I get it. I mean, look, I don't know if this is me being like cute or just trying to come up with some crazy prediction, but I kind of think the Rockets are going to win this.
I'm hearing some people say that.
I really do.
And it's making me a little nervous. I really like when no one's on us, but no, go ahead. Say your reasoning.
If Kevin Durant shows up and he has that fire and that aggressiveness like he's having at the closing out this Clipper series, I don't think anybody has a chance. I'll put that on the table. But I don't know. I just find Golden State a little convoluted. I find their chemistry a little off this year. I feel like they don't really. They know Kevin Durant's leaving. I feel like deep down, and Klay Thompson might leave,
get a little sense of that,
and I feel like they're kind of worried. They don't have as much depth, I feel like, as previous years. And I don't know. I like the Rockets a lot. The Rockets are built to beat the Warriors. If they are hitting their threes, there's no way the Warriors are winning this series.
I will say this, too, and I think we did it overall in that last year's series. We did a decent job on Durant for the most part. I mean, he kind of took over in Game 7. But I think there's no such thing as a Durant stopper. But if there is one guy in the league I would like to guard Durant, I think it's P.J. Tucker.
P.J. Tucker's a
Tucker's a dog.
Yeah, he is.
P.J. Tucker's a dog. That dude is one of the best rebounders in the NBA. He's a hustler. Yeah. And he's physical, so when Durant posts up, it's probably the hardest post-up attempts he ever gets.
Yeah, he's not getting out of there unscathed, even if he makes that shot. He's going to have to work for those.
P.J. Tucker's holding his own, and if that post-up is from 15 feet out or further, he's going to get an awkward off-balance shot that he'll still make sometimes because he is Kevin Durant and he's fucking incredible. But P.J. Tucker's going to make him where he's not going to get easy post-up fadeaway jumpers on Tucker. But
I could really just see them winning. I mean, having DeMarcus Cousins go out, I know that might actually make them better. It might make their chemistry a little better. But to be
honest with you.
Yeah, straight up. I mean, we kind of both talked about that a little bit in the last one, how Cousins might actually hurt this team. But
it turns out the league's not done because Cousins went to Golden State.
Right?
Whoever would have figured that out. Jeez.
I don't know. I mean, I like the Warriors a lot, obviously. I think everybody does. We know their strengths, but I don't find their mindset that hungry. I feel like they're satisfied. I feel like they've won enough in their minds. I don't know. I just don't. I see it in Durant a little bit with the Clippers, but that to me was more just showing Patrick Beverley who Kevin. Like you said, I'm Kevin Durant, whatever.
Also, I've heard this from. Obviously, you saw this with the Miami Heat when they had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade. I've heard Steve Kerr say it because he played on both Bulls teams that three-peated. A lot of guys that have been on these dynasty teams have said the third one is, and it kind of makes sense, kind of makes logical sense. The third one in the three-peat is always the toughest one to get. After winning the title 2 straight years and then going through another long postseason, it's so emotionally draining. The third one is real. I mean, it's not obviously not impossible, but the third one is always. Honestly, if you look at the Kobe Shaq Lakers three-peat, they probably shouldn't have three-peated, but Sacramento got freaking hosed in what was probably the worst officiating game in NBA history, but that's a different topic. My point is, the third one is always the hardest to win.
One. And they have the Clippers have damaged them a little bit going forward. They're going to face the Rockets. If they somehow manage to win that series, then they're going to probably have to go against the Blazers, if not the Nuggets, which is another tough match. I mean, the Nuggets, I think they'll be fine. But the Blazers, I think, is another tough matchup for them. And, I mean, by the time they get to the finals, they're probably going to be facing the Raptors or the Bucks. And that's going to be their second hardest matchup next to the Rockets. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think they could easily lose. I think Stan Van Gundy's the one who took the field. I'm probably
Stan Van took the Rockets. Bill Simmons took the Rockets.
Well, Stan Van took the field in the beginning too.
In the beginning,
he took the field. So
Bill Simmons did before the postseason.
So I kind of think that too now. Like the more I see Golden State play, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, I was watching Lock It In the other day. Rick Bucher at the beginning of the season had not Golden State winning it. I think he had either Toronto or he had someone from the East actually winning it, Toronto or Milwaukee. Which I think that's very possible. But
I think it's very possible.
Especially Toronto. I think that I've already said they're
are you taking Golden State in 7, I'm assuming? You're going to take your boys.
All right. Obviously, we need to make threes. That's the freaking obvious thing with us. I mean, that doesn't take much insight to say. Obviously, also, I mean, we win the series last year. Chris Paul doesn't pull his hamstring. I will argue that to the day I die. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
I agree.
And in a weird way, we've kind of developed our own depth that rivals the depth we had last year. Daniel House, who didn't play well in games 3 and 4, was excellent off the bench in games 1 and 2 for us. Gordon's been playing lights out in the series. He's been pretty impressive. And obviously, Chris Paul's been doing his thing. We have depth up front with Capella and Fareed, who for some reason did not play much last game. I don't understand why he didn't. I think going small was killing us in the fourth quarter. But we have the guns to go toe to toe with them. I think I'm gonna pick the Warriors in 7 because 1, I don't want to jinx my team. 2, and they do have home court this year. Game 7 in Oakland would be tough to win there.
Definitely.
But I mean, we can. It's gonna be another really tough series. It's gonna come down. It's gonna come down to if we can avoid a long drought of threes and keep executing our offense well. And then on the other end, PJ Tucker's a huge X factor in the series. How he can handle how he can handle Kevin Durant. I'm gonna pick Warriors in 7, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope you, along with everyone else, is right about the Rockets. And I think this is a little disrespectful to the two teams in the East. Some people are saying this is the NBA Finals. It was the Finals last year because we were clearly us and Golden State were the 2 best teams clearly last year. This year, I'm not going to say that because I think Milwaukee and Toronto are legit.
Yeah, I don't think it's the Finals. I do think
probably
it's
the
one
West
of the best
Finals.
matchups possibly.
Although if people will say that and then Damian Lillard will get pissed off and then who knows what happens
might
there.
take them, yeah.
But I still think that these are the 2 best teams in the West at the peak of their powers.
I think they're the 2 best teams in the league.
In the league,
but
probably.
Toronto,
probably.
you can't do. Toronto's hard to disrespect too. I get what you're saying. It's hard to say it's the Finals.
Toronto's probably
you could really have a push with the Rockets, Raptors. And
I think Toronto's got a deeper roster than us, especially when Anunoby's healthy. But I think we have more star power and
y'all got
Paul
and
Harden are 2
of
top 20
Siakam
guys.
And Kawhi for
and
sure.
then I think Capella's awesome. Like Capella, no one knows their role and performs it.
I know.
Like and PJ Tucker are like the 2 dudes in the league that are just awesome.
He plays like a pure center, and he doesn't try to be anything else. And that's
he's
exactly
solid,
what they need.
He's not a liability on defense. I mean, he's not like the Kemba Mutombo by any means, but I mean, he's a solid defender. Yeah. He can protect the rim on lob pass. He just knows where to be for those lob passes, whether it's Harden or Paul throwing it to him. It's gonna be another awesome series. I'm probably gonna lose another 3 years off my life watching that series, but I'm gonna pick Golden State in 7, just to not jinx, but go fucking Rockets. Hopefully we take them down.
Nice. All right. Well, that's about wraps it up. I feel like this was a good one.
That was good. Great.
Definitely
I can't
looking
wait.
forward to the next rounds.
I can't wait.
These rounds are gonna be. I think these rounds are gonna.
Both conferences
fantastic.
are going to be. Because the East first round was kind of. We knew who the teams were going to be in the second round. But it's 4 legit teams in the East in this round. And honestly, obviously, we talked about Warriors Rockets too. That's going to be epic. Even assuming Denver does win, I think Portland Denver will be a fun
It'll be
series.
A fun matchup because they both have different strengths. And
I
think that's going to be definitely fun to see how that works out and plays out. So.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good as always.
Yeah.